friend. It's your host, Emily Matheson, and welcome to New York Transplants, the podcast. On this podcast, I connect with other transplants to better understand how can we find human connection and build community in this concrete jungle. As a mental health expert, I am always looking for new ideas and tools to support my sense of belonging and well-being. That's why I am leaning on my guests and asking for their advice on how I and you can nurture our New York roots. So what are you waiting for? Come and get rooted with us. Vicky Conroy.
Hi.
Welcome to New York Transplants.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
On a -1.
Oh my God, it's so cold. I'm so over it.
It's
been a week.
We were commiserating on our tiredness, our lack of adjustment to the quick onset of winter in New York.
The only good news is that it's not raining.
Yes.
Because I hate being wet more than I hate being cold.
Agreed.
So.
If the sun's out, it could be -30 and I'd still be fine.
Yep. The rain is what's going to take me out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The ice rain. Mm-hmm. That's a whole different thing. Mm-hmm. As an Australian, I never knew existed. Sleet.
Welcome.
Let's talk about endorphins.
Let's.
So you started running
during COVID. What didn't happen during COVID for me?
And also the running.
The running.
Running just really, it became cool again.
Yeah.
Like New Balance.
We love New Balance. Run your way, baby.
What does running give you?
Oh my God. What doesn't it give me other than stress fractures? Unfortunately. At the time when I started running, it was literally like getting out of boredom, but also just like getting back into some sort of healthy mindset. And also it wasn't about like changing body image or whatever. It was just like, I had just gotten out of college and I went to a party school. Yep. I loved it. Like we had so much fun, but like maybe a little too much. And it was just like, oh, I'm living in my parents' basement again. Yeah. And we can't go outside to like see other people. So it was just like a natural scrolling on TikTok and people were doing the couch to 5K. And I was like, sure. And that was like, then it started to become like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better throughout the whole day. Yeah. I literally, endorphins are so real. I feel such a high. Yep. I wasn't training for a race for a while. I didn't even think about it. I was just like, I'll do a 5K, but like, it wasn't like I need to run a marathon immediately. Yep. Just like peace and clarity. And now my best friends, like it literally gave me my entire community, my job. It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, it's given me pretty much everything, which is wild. And it sucks to not be able to do it, but it's also like a motivator to get back to it when I can. Yeah.
And what's that journey looking like for you at the moment?
I mean, I'm out of the boot right now, which is crazy. I was in the boot for about 6 weeks. And I have about another month until I can start running again. So hopefully 2025 is actually my year, because I said that about 2024 and then it didn't happen. But 2025, hopefully we'll get a half in there and see what happens. But I just want to be running healthy and not running to the doctor.
What have you used to kind of get through those difficult times?
Funny enough, like the community. Like I actually don't think that I would be as like okay as I am without the friends that I made through endorphins. And like I'm still showing up to runs. I'm still obviously doing all of the media and everything else behind the scenes. And it's really weird because Tyler, the founder and like my now boss but really best friend, he is also going through health. Like we've both kind of been through the ringer, and so having both of us not be able to running a run club is kind of hilarious. Absolutely. And people are like, wait, neither of you are running, and we're like, no, but you guys got it. So I think like, and diving into other things like reading or just being with the friends that I run with outside of running too, and just letting myself be sad. Like
we love it.
Have to.
We've said on this podcast, we love a pity party.
Yeah. Oh,
allow your time.
I've had a lot of those. And it's okay.
Absolutely.
Like you can't just be like, oh, I'm fine. Because it's like you're not. And you are being taken away from something that you love that gives you mental clarity and like takes away anxiety and whatever else. And it's really, really hard. Especially when for me, it's like I haven't figured out the root cause. Like haven't really been given an answer yet. So it's kind of just been a lot of like waiting. So just utilizing being like throwing the pity parties, but then also just like getting outside in other ways and exercising and going to cycle bar and, you know, doing other movement and just trying not to go crazy.
Yeah. And kudos to you and Tyler, because I think that there is an importance and an irony that you are both heading up a run club and not training during this difficult time, because you need to be able to represent a healthy relationship with movement and demonstrate the full spectrum of what occurs in a person's life. Like, injury is inevitable, and you have to approach it with a you know, healthy mindset and a realistic one, because I know that there are spaces that encourage unhealthy relationships with movement, you know, pushing the body to its limits and just pushing past that pain. And, you know, there for a reason. It's really important. And so I think that it's admirable that you're both able to, you know, demonstrate, no, this is a natural course of, you know, being involved in movement. And, you know, demonstrating that healthily is
resting
really important.
is really hard.
Oh, so hard.
Especially when all your friends are running marathons and doing the thing. And it's hard to watch sometimes, you know, you want to be out there so badly. But you're right, like, pain's there for a reason. Resting is needed, but it's also difficult. And you got to do it.
Can you tell me how, you know, more about your Endorphins role and the relationship you've developed with Tyler?
When I moved to New York, I moved to New York on like a Saturday, and Monday morning I showed up to an Endorphins run because I had posted on TikTok that I was moving to New York. It was in one of my vlogs. And Tyler at the time was running like a crazy person. He was running to the airports in New York. He was running to wherever he could run that was like 30 miles. And he did a crazy, you know, he was just on one basically. Hence the back injury that's now sidelined him. But he saw my video and somebody had tagged him being like, oh my gosh, like, you guys need to run together. Because at the time we were both posting about running, and I was like, oh, I'm in New York. And he DM'd me and he was like, hey, we have a run on Monday morning. It's called Endorphins. Like, and at the time, like, there was maybe 10, 12 of us at that run. And we were in, I think, 2 or 3 cities at the time. It was in April, and I just shown up, and I literally within that same week met all of my best friends that are my best friends right now. And I was just a member for over the summer. And again, like, I was in that corporate job. I wasn't loving it, but it wasn't like, it was fine. I was getting, you know, I was doing the thing. I was enjoying my first summer in New York. And
the memories.
My heart, the memories. And then it was towards the end of that summer, we were kicking things off in Austin. And I went with a group, the same group that I met, and we all traveled down to Austin for the kickoff run. And I kind of had the moment of like, there's something happening here that's a little bit different. And like the community that's being cultivated is just a little bit different. Like, we're flying to Austin, Texas on a Tuesday to go and like meet these other runners that are now going to be a part of our community. And I think Tyler had maybe posted on the Instagram like 2 to 3 times, and he was like, he was doing it all, right? Like, he was doing everything. He was launching new cities and trying to like, you know, set up the virtual community. And he was like, gosh, it would be really great to have like more of a media presence. And then I just kind of like did it. And I think like a lot of people were like, oh, I want to help. And I didn't really say, I just started helping. And it was a passion side thing for me because I was doing my own social media. I was in the corporate job. And then I was like staying up until 10, 11 p.m. on the phone. Like, this is what we're going to post this week. And it was just like a fun side quest. It was so energizing. And that's when I started to realize like, oh, I really like doing this. And then we started posting more consistently. God, the content on there is probably really rough to look at now. Like, I should go back and look. But like at the time, it was like really great. Like, it was working and it was representing what the community was. And then it just like into that fall, I was like, wait, I'm like really doing this as like a job. You know what I mean? Like it was like, I'm loving this so much. And then there was just this kind of natural transition where I was like, I'm going to leave corporate and I'm going to do my content and like, we're going to do this. And I didn't know what it was going to turn into. And now it's like, we have 25,000 members. We're all over in 11. And also, by the way, very important call out is like, Tyler and I do the operations, right? But like, there would be no Endorphins without our city leads. So we have 50 city leads across the country.
Holy moly.
In the 11 cities. So
my gosh.
we would not exist without them, and
Yep.
the community would not run without them.
Yep.
Those are the people that are waking up every single week
Yep.
at 6 a.m. and leading people through these runs.
Yep.
Keeping and our pace leads as well. Like the pace groups that we have are inclusive, especially in New York. And like those are the people that are actually making these things happen, because Tyler and I can't run, and we can't run in 11 cities.
And tell me, so the pace leads, so how does that work out? As a non-running girly, you know, the thought of a run club is very intimidating to me. What does a pace run look like?
Yeah. So like in New York, every city is a little bit different, but like in New York, for example, on Saturday mornings, we have our largest run of the week, which is our Saturday long runs. And we split people out by pace groups, and we start at 7 minutes and we end at 11 to 12 minutes.
Yep.
So we basically have the pace leads that are they just like love the community, and they want to be there. And it was kind of this natural thing, like, oh, I'm going to run this pace. I know the route. I can like take you along. So then these groups of people in hordes are now following these pace leads that are incredible, and they're keeping people hopefully safe as they can. You know, we're not professionals, but we're doing our best.
New York traffic.
Yeah. And we try to run, you know, to the state of the right, safety first. And then they know the route, and they're taking people along, and they're keeping that pace. And like, it's just it's another way for you to connect, because you show up to that Saturday long run, there's 500 people there, and you're like, what is going on? I don't know anyone. But then you get went like down into this 20 person group, and all of a sudden you're like, this isn't intimidating, this is smaller, and you know, and it gets pretty crazy, but then you boil it down. And so every city kind of has a version of that depending on size, and it's just another way we try to include as many people as we can.
I would say I'm extroverted.
Yeah.
But that is nerve-wracking, especially in a space where you're questioning your ability and there's already pre-formed groups and friendships. To know that you are having that intentional kind of approach. Josh Pugh, America Josh, who I previously had on, he's a fantastic community leader, and he was talking about it's those details that really matter.
Yeah.
It makes or breaks someone's willingness to come again.
Totally.
Because if they show up and, you know, they aren't welcomed or greeted in a certain way, like it just leaves that bad impression. Yeah. And to know that you're thinking about that at the outset is crucial.
We think about a new member in every single thing that we do.
Yep.
And something that Tyler has said from day one at every single run, and now it's spanned across the country, all of the city leads know about this, is like Tyler will say the mission, but he will also say, if you are a returning runner here and you see somebody you don't know, go and say hi. And it works. Like everybody there, especially at the Saturday long runs, who has been before, knows that no one should be running alone.
Yeah. And
then all of the new people are like, oh, people are actually going to say hi to me. And then they come back the next week and they say hi to somebody else. Yes. It's like this
chain effect.
Yes. And I think it's really impactful to say that every single time. Like it doesn't matter if there's 5 people at the run. If you see somebody you don't know,
say hello,
say hi. And you already have an immediate connection. You're both running.
Yeah. You have an immediate shared identity.
It's not like you're meeting someone on the street.
Yeah.
You're running.
Yeah.
How long have you been running? That's my go-to. You got to have like the repository of questions.
You do. Because I think I am surprised by, and again, I don't know if this is the decline in community spaces or just how transitional this city can be, but I see this in, you know, have spoken to other people in different spaces. It's not just in New York, but I think we've lost our ability to walk up to someone and say hello. And whether that's anxiety, whether that's, nervousness, but it can come across off as rude.
Yeah.
Like it can be, it's like, put yourself out there.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen?
Yep.
But it's also identifying that there is a full spectrum of people who are rocking up to these events. You know, some people who are introverted, some people who are very anxious. So it might take that little bit more for them to say hello.
Yeah.
So if you're someone who it doesn't take as much energy, be that person.
Go do it. Yeah.
Reach out.
Even if you look crazy, which sometimes...
We've all been there.
It's fine.
It's, you know, I will happily embarrass myself.
Oh, 100%.
If it means making someone feel that bit more comfortable. Because embarrassment, lasts 10 seconds.
Embarrassment is your own idea in your head.
Yes, exactly.
I'm always like, I'm not embarrassed. Why would I be embarrassed? Yeah. Who cares?
We've seen a rise in run clubs. Yeah. What do you think it is about running and run clubs that have become so popular?
I think it's a mix of things, but I think post-COVID, people were looking for social connection that wasn't going out.
Yes.
I think we've seen a rise in run clubs in like people from 20 to 30 because like I said, I was at a party school and I didn't know how to make friends if it wasn't at a bar.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people were craving that.
Yep.
They didn't want to meet someone, and I don't want to say drinking is unhealthy, but like wanted to meet somewhere in a more healthy way.
Yes.
And if you're already running, I was actually on the train of like, wait, you run with a group? Like when I got that DM and people were like, oh, come to Endorphins, I was like, why would I ever want to run with a group? Like I'm sweating, I can't talk, but like there is something special about sharing those miles with somebody else and being able to train with the running is hard.
Yeah.
Running is so hard. You have an accountability partner or group. You have, when the run gets hard, you have somebody next to you and you don't even have to say anything.
Yes.
There's been multiple long runs where me and a friend aren't saying anything, but we're just running together. But I do think it's that post-COVID just like yearning for social connection that doesn't involve like getting shit-faced.
Absolutely. And that we are seeing, particularly with these younger generations, this rise in sobriety or a reduction in alcohol consumption. And I think, and like it's so important to acknowledge that. And one space that I love and regularly talk about is the drawing room in Chelsea. Like that is a third space that is, you know, allowing people to congregate for movie nights, pottery, like whatever you want to do, they will probably offer it because they are such few and far between, but we are seeing the rise in it. And to be able to create healthy habits and community.
We also get a lot of post-college athletes who had a really bad experience with running. And I think I experienced similar things, right? Like running was a punishment.
Yes.
And now they're like, oh wait, this is fun again.
Yes.
And so we get a lot of that, which is really cool. But I think just with the rise of running, you get the rise of people wanting to sign up for races. And then people are like, wait, I have to run 18 miles. And then they're like, well, I might as well do it with a group. So it's kind of like this snowball effect with like people signing up for races and then wanting to find training partners. It's all in the same realm.
What are some of the misconceptions do you think people have about run clubs that you might want to debunk here and now?
It's hard because every run club is different and there are so many specifically in New York. I think like the biggest one is like, oh, they run too fast for me. And like that may be the case. Like there's run clubs in New York that are there to work out, right? And I think it's a matter of finding the one that works for you. And there's Slow Girl Run Club that I love. There's like, and then there's like Dashing Whippets and Central Park Track Club that are like really working. And it's like, you just have to find the one that there is a run club for you. Even if you don't think that there is. And if there's not, you can always make one. But like, if you think they're running too fast, then you can find one that specifically does not do that. And also just the inclusivity aspect, like you're not going to be welcome. And you may feel like that. Like we hope at Endorphins, no one walks away feeling like they were not included, but we also can't control a 500 person experience as best as we do it as best as we can. And we hope that the city leads and the members there are helping with that. And we've created that space, but like not every run is going to be the best experience ever. And I also think people think we talk the whole time, which is not true. You don't have to. You don't have to say a word. And you could be there for the safety, for the route. I'm not running at 6 a.m. alone. No. Not in New York. I'm going to get kidnapped.
Not as a young woman.
No way.
That's what I think I love about these concepts as well, is not having to opt out of the thing that you enjoy because of safety reasons. Like there is safety in numbers. And so that to me is really crucial. And like you said, 6 a.m., that's when a lot of people choose to work out or would like to work out because it fits in with their routine.
And it's dark.
But it's dark. Especially in the winters. Like that's a good 4 months of the year. Like I went for a walk the other night, it was afternoon and it was 4:30, 4:45 and it was dark in Central Park. And the first thing I thought was
can't be out here alone.
Exit out.
So that's like, I think that's a really big one, is like, we're not always chatting away. And like sometimes people really are just there for the space and just the comfort of having other people around. But yeah, I do believe that there's a run club for everyone.
I like that.
I really do.
What would be your number one tip to a transplant who is coming into a new city, is looking to maybe join a run club, but they're nervous or they're intimidated? What would be your number one tip?
Oh, I think ideal, I don't know, it's hard to say because I think I had this experience is like I found one person that I already knew in the city and I brought them with me, which is nice. So if you can find that one other person that you maybe know of a mutual friend, hey, you want to try this with me, show up. But also if you can't, just show up knowing that you need to put yourself out there. It goes both ways, right? If you're going to show up and not say a word and then walk away saying that was so lame and no one talked to me, it's like you do have to put in a little bit of the effort. It goes, but it's kind of like moving to New York. It's not just, it's the greatest city in the world if you make it the greatest city in the world.
Absolutely.
So it's not going to be the best run club ever if you are mute and like don't make a friend. And like if you show up and no one talks to you and you've actually put in the effort, then that's the run club's problem. And so the other tip is like try multiple. I go to many. It's like, I'm a leader of Endorphins, but I'm not just going to Endorphins. Especially when I first moved here, I was going to 4 different run clubs a week. Try them all. There's no harm. You're running either way, and you might not like one and you might love the other, and like that's fine. So just try them all.
And it takes consistency. I think that was something that I thought about the other day when I was in one of Angie's classes, is that I've been going to her classes for a year and a half, maybe nearly 2 years. And that is, I've cycled over 100 classes. Like that, it's the consistency of seeing those people day in, day out. That takes time. So you can't expect to have this immediate wave of, familiarity. No. First weekend, second weekend, like it's going to take time.
Also, this is actually the number one thing that I always try to remember and what I tell people. Everyone at that run club had a first run club experience. Everyone that is there was in your shoes, was feeling the nerves. Like literally every single person that showed up has felt exactly what you were feeling. And if they're a decent human being, nobody wants you to have a bad experience. And nobody's going to be outwardly mean. No. So like you just have to remember that you're nervous, and like everyone there is also probably nervous. Like no one wants to put themselves out there all the time, and it's hard to do, and like it's a respectable thing to do. And so you just have to remember like, oh, this person felt the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, as a community member, remembering that when you see someone who is new, is like, oh, okay.
Do you remember your first time at Cycle Bar? You were probably so nervous.
And I just wanted to be in the back
You're like,
row.
Where do I go? Where's the locker?
Like getting your bike situated, like remembering the measurements. Every studio is different. Every franchise is different. Like there's the logistics, and then there's the, everyone is just looking at the mirror. And kind
is everyone going to look at me?
Eye contact.
Scary.
And again, with exposure, that
and then you've done 100.
Yeah, precisely. So you moved to New York in April 2023.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Did you have expectations for this city, and what were they? And good, bad, ugly, did they surprise you?
I had the most expectations. I like came out of the womb being like, I'm going to live in a big city when I grow up. I wanted it to be New York. Like there was a period of time where I would not shut up about moving to New York. Like my parents were so over it. And it was during COVID. Like no one was going anywhere. I was like, I have to be here. So I idolized this city. Like I was like, it must be everything that you see on TV, anything that involved New York, a book, a movie, a TV show. I was like, this is where I just like, I don't know what it is. I just like felt like this is where I needed to be. And Portland was a city, but it wasn't a city that I saw myself in long term. And having grown up in Europe and other big cities, it was just like, I knew that I wanted to be here. And I think I'm just so lucky to have said that it's like lived up to every expectation I could have had. And I think it's the greatest city. Like no one can tell me any different. And it makes my heart so sad when someone has a bad experience here. Like I just want to take them along with me for the ride.
What would be maybe 3 things that you would want them to experience of New York to make them kind of reconnect with it the way you have?
I think this is going to sound like you're paying me to say this, but like
no one's paid on this podcast.
Find your community before you find anything else. Like when you come here, I think a lot of people idolize the city, right? And they think because they're going to be in New York their life is going to be significantly better,
Yeah.
or they're going to have the best time ever because New York is so great. But I think the quote is like, wherever you go, there you are. And so like, if you don't find yourself happy or yourself with friends and community, you're not going to like it here. You're not going to like any city.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't have to be running, but like lean into a hobby. There's so many things to do here to find people, whether they're single, whether they're your age. Like, there's so many hobbies and clubs. And like, if you could prioritize anything when you move here, it's get out there and meet people. Because like, the longer you go without finding your people, the longer you're going to be like, this place sucks.
Yes.
Like, New York is only as good as the people that you surround yourself with, I think.
I like your advice in terms of doing that early on.
While
you've still got that momentum and motivation and the excitement of the city. Because if you let that dwindle, like, it's that early onset of motivation and excitement that is going to help, you know, catapult you into those communities, or at least trial and error.
Yes.
Like, and if, you know, if you don't like it, you've still got some motivation to keep going. Whereas I think definitely in my experience, when it was kind of, I got to the point of, where is my community?
Yeah.
I was just really in a low space. So when things didn't work out, or where I didn't kind of find my space, it felt almost much harder than I think if I'd found that earlier on in the process.
Yeah.
So last year you left your corporate job.
Yes.
And you were going to be focusing full time on content creation, both for your personal brand, but also for Endorphins Running.
Yep.
What pushed you to take that leap from corporate to content creation?
Yeah, I was in corporate right after college, and then I moved to New York, and honestly, like, I wasn't really meant to, like, I was cleared to work remotely here, but it was kind of on like we're gonna have to figure that out, because my role was based in Oregon still. So I kind of just took this leap, and I knew in my head, like, I wasn't going to be in corporate for much longer. Like, I was hoping, right? And then moved here, and I was just like really unhappy in the role. I was working in human resources, and it was just not what I wanted to be doing. And then the more that I started focusing on my own content and then got involved with Endorphins, the more I was just like, I'm so happy when I'm doing this. And there was like, actually, people were like, oh, was there one moment? And there actually was. It was last October. We did a shoot for the New York City Marathon, and we did a shoot we gathered a bunch of community members, and we did a shoot for New Balance. And New Balance did not ask us to do the shoot. We were like, we're just going to do it for them and like show them what we can do. And we shot for 14 hours. In one day. We were in every borough. It seemed like we started at 6 a.m. on the track in East River, and then we ended in the Bronx and Times Square, which was an experience. And it was one of the best days of my life still. Like, we had so much fun, and I was running the social media, and I was like, what am I doing? I was like, it was on a Sunday, and I knew that I had to wake up that Monday morning and work my little HR job. And I was like, no, I can't. I just like, you just had that like, oh shit, like, I really am not enjoying this. And I think I was also nervous, right? Because like, leaving a corporate job is really scary. And I was like, I'm just gonna do it and I think I said I'd give myself 6 months and just see what happens. And the relief that I felt like putting the 2 weeks, and I loved my team, I loved everybody that I was working with. It was just like, it felt like a weight off my shoulders. And then I just kept diving right in and have been having the most fun ever. Like, I wake up every day and I'm like, I can't believe this is my life and that I get to do this. And I will text Tyler, who's my coworker basically, and I'll be like, we live the dream. And it's crazy. People say like, oh, what's your dream job? Like, I'm doing it. Which is crazy. I'm only 26. What am I going to do when I'm 40? What's my new dream job?
What were some of those fears that you had when it came to wanting to leave? Like, it is a nerve-wracking thing to want to leave a space but not knowing what the next step was. What were some of the things that were holding you back originally?
I mean, other than the obvious like benefits and salary, just like the comfort, like in general, I was so comfortable in that HR job. I've been doing it for so long, and I like could do it in my sleep. It was just like, it was kind of like clockwork, and it was mundane, but it was also comfortable. It's kind of like when you're in a relationship you know isn't right for you, and you're just like, but it's comfortable and it's safe, so why would I leave, even though it's not your person? And I think I just had that fear of like, okay, well, what if I leave and it all goes wrong? Or what if I leave and like I never make any money, or I can't survive here? You know what I mean? Like it was just a scary, those were the scariest things. And it's like, I just don't believe that there was a wrong answer. Nothing good comes from being comfortable. You have to make yourself uncomfortable if you want to get unstuck. Right?
And grow.
Yeah.
And I think our brain has that tendency to look at the what if negatives.
Totally.
Right. So something that I've found quite helpful in the past is, you know, being a chronic warrior, I would list all the things that could possibly go wrong. But then, you know, if you can write that down, for every negative, you know, what if, I would come up with a positive what if. And more often than not, those, you can't even imagine some of the good things that are going to come out 100%. Of it. And so just even that simple, like getting it down on paper, you start to realize, oh, there's so many possibilities, but what are the probabilities of those things actually happening? And, you know, you're closing yourself off to all those other opportunities if you don't take that
and
leap.
So many things will come that you could never even have expected. Like that's what's happened to me. And Tyler always says, what's the best that can happen? And I've been using that one a lot.
Oh, I love that. It's true, because sometimes your brain, and I was talking to you earlier about like even starting this podcast, you know, I had some concrete goals that I wanted to achieve, and now I'm taking note of the unexpected things that have happened, because then that allows you to expand your next round of goal setting. Because you're like, oh, this is actually what's possible as a result of this now. And that's part of that growth process. But like you said, it is very uncomfortable. And yet we have to be uncomfortable if we want to grow. What do you think has been the hardest thing for you as a New York transplant?
Oh, that is a great question. I think I said this in the beginning. Living here is hard. Everything is harder. Getting groceries is harder. Traveling is harder. It's so expensive. So it's on the days that things are really hard, remembering the good that does outweigh the bad, because then you have I went to a Natasha Bedingfield concert last week. It was the best $50 I've ever spent in my life.
Imagine.
And it was one of those days where you're like, this is why I live here. You go to this concert and then you walk outside and there's a movie theater and this guy is playing These Words in Unwritten on a speaker. And we had a concert outside the AMC movie theater after the concert. And I think the AMC concert was better than the and it was just like, that's community. Like there was this group of people on the street singing and dancing. And then I literally had this moment of like, this is why I live here. This is like so special. And it's like those random little moments. But yeah, it's not all easy. And also just getting caught up in like, what am I doing with my life? Even though it looks perfect on social media, right? Like everything is curated and it looks great, and I'm not sharing everything. And like, there's been really hard moments. So I think that's been the hardest thing, is like, yes, I'm so lucky. I feel lucky every single day. I have a dream life. But that doesn't mean there's not hard things, right?
Absolutely. You can't have like this idea of perfection. And again, that's what social media tends to cultivate. But I think in terms of New York, you can see the New York on the movies and how it's portrayed, you know, in media. But I think it's important to recognize those, you know, you will still have bad days here.
Totally.
You will have, and they are compounded by, you know, cost of living and just the various ways in which the city is, you know, organized.
It knocks you down.
Oh, it does. It does. But then again, it's having those people that you can come to who understand what those kind of trial and tribulations look like, and recognizing that there will be another good day. There will be a Natasha Bedingfield.
There'll be more good days. Every single time. And all the people that you're leaning on are having the same experience.
Absolutely. You're a journal girly.
Oh, yeah.
How long have you journaled?
On and off, probably, oh my gosh, I probably have a journal from like 12 years old where I was like, I kissed this boy and I love him. You know, like there's probably, something in there. But I really started last year. And it's just I don't do anything special or crazy. It's just a way for me to write out my thoughts. And then I do my monthly recaps, which are very important to me. They're like Bible. I just did my December one.
What does that entail?
It entails the same questions every single month. And it's favorite song, favorite food at the moment, if I'm running, or like my running status, just to kind of keep track of that. The favorite book that I've read recently, if I'm hyperfixating on anything, like I'm hyperfixating on Wicked this month.
Always.
As we all are.
Absolutely.
And then my current crushes.
Real life celebrity.
Yeah. A mix. Sometimes it's like a book character.
Absolutely.
I think in July I said like the guy that I saw on the L train.
Oof.
You know? Like I don't know that man.
Going to or from Brooklyn?
To Manhattan from Brooklyn. So like maybe.
In terms of other strategies that you would impart onto our fellow transplants, are there any other things that have kind of helped you find your footing when it's, you know, when it's come to moving here, or even you've lived in other parts of the world? You know, have there been kind of your go-to strategies that you've lent on to help you feel more grounded?
I think journaling is a good one. Reading is always a good one. I also just think, because we chatted about this a little bit, I have friends all over the world. Call them, FaceTime them. Like I will FaceTime my friends out of the blue that still live in Oregon or where it's like, or call your mom. I call my mom like 8 times a day. And if I don't, she's like, something's wrong. Like just, it's okay to like lean on your people. You don't have to go through, you shouldn't be going through everything alone. And of course there's boundaries to that, and you can't be like codependent on somebody, but like call your people. I think that's what I do all the time is just like check in on them, because you never know what they're going through there. Like I have friends that have left their families and are living in towns that they've never lived in, and they're probably having a similar experience to me. And like the comfort of calling my best friend from college is so worth it. So I think that's like, although you're in a new city and a new place, it doesn't mean you have to be talking to new people all the time. Like you should still be talking to the people that you grew up with or keeping those relationships.
And I think that is, you know, in terms of comfort and that familiarity, and it is hard with various time zones and like people's busy schedules. One thing that I've found over the last kind of 6 months that I've started to do is actually schedule calls. Because I think sometimes in my mind, it's like I'm scheduling coffee dates or dinners, and if it's in my diary, it's very unlikely that I'm going to change it or move it. But balancing that with the spontaneous calls or a voice note. I love a voice note these days.
Big voice note person. Do you know you can fast forward them now? Like you can set the speed, which is great, because like my friend and I will send 10 minutes. So you got to up it a little bit, but that's like, it's key, because you get to hear their voice, and it's so much more personal instead of a text, and that's a go-to.
And sometimes I just get genuine typing fatigue. I just like to sometimes just hold my phone.
There's just certain situations where I'm not texting. I'm like, I need to get this out right now.
Verbally. I'm a verbal processor.
Tyler doesn't like voice notes.
Is that a boy? I think
it might be a boy thing, because like my brother doesn't want to hear it. And I'll send him a voice note, and he just, I know he hates it. I'm like, hey, so I had this idea, and he's like,
text it.
Or just talk to me in person.
But it's in my mind now.
It's just
and I need to get it off my chest now. So you can listen to it when you want to, but I need to send it now. Fan of the voice note. We'll never give up the voice note.
Big fan.
From an outsider's perspective, you have cultivated these very special communities, both online. I did some stalking.
Great.
Had to do some research. Online, in person. I haven't been to an Endorphins Run club, but just the events look, you know, unreal. What do you like? What does community mean to you today, sitting in that chair? And has the idea of community evolved since moving to New York?
I think like when I showed up, it was just like, oh, it's a group of friends. But now it's like truly about the connection and just creating the space for connection. Like I talk about the city leads, and like they're showing up at 6 a.m. on a Monday, and like there might be 4 people there, and that's amazing because those 4 people are now connecting and sharing miles and experiencing what endorphins is without 500. It doesn't matter if there's 500 people or 5, and like it's about creating the space and about creating the connection. I think that's really what it is for me, and just the impact. Like especially I think it comes out during race weekends. Like for context, we're in 11 cities, and we show up at all of the major marathons, and we do my favorite event ever is the Shakeout Run, because it's the day before the marathon. Everyone there for the most part has trained for this race. And they're choosing to show up at this event because they feel connected to endorphins in some way or another. And they may have never been to an endorphins run, but they see it on social, or they have a friend that, you know, and we create the space for them. Or we have people showing up from all of our cities. Like the New York City Marathon Shakeout, we had somebody there from every single one of our cities. And they immediately felt like at home in a way. And like you can feel that with anything. It's like Taylor Swift. If I see someone in an Eras Tour short, I'm beelining. I'm like, that's a friend. You know, it's like this automatic, and we have shirts or hoodies or whatever, and it's never been about selling the apparel, but it's a way for them to connect. Shared identity. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like so incredibly impactful, especially at the shakeout runs, to see people meeting for the first time. Oh, I chatted with you on Circle. Or we were in the same dietitian group. Or we are running the same pace. Or like, oh, you're from Seattle. I went to a Seattle run once. Like, it's just literally, and all we do is tell people to show up at 9 a.m. And the rest does it. It does it itself. It like moves itself. And to see the city leads just be so proud of, like, if they're in Boston and they've built this community and there's 200 people at their shakeout run and they're so excited and proud, and like everyone there is going to run 26 miles the next day, which is crazy. I hope to do it someday, but like they're so nervous and excited. And I think it helps bring the nerves down. Because they're like, oh my God, look, all these people that I know. But I don't.
And that is honestly one of my favorite days in the city. New York Marathon.
There's nothing like it.
I've cried.
I cry every time.
3 years in a row, and you just cry. We've had people run in 2 years. And just,
it's so special.
Wept like a baby, because I think just that share, everyone's running for a charity. It just showcases the best essence of New York, of everyone coming together, and you just see every demographic running that race, which I think is the most special
too. It's all community. I think community's become like a buzzword right now. And like it shows up in a million different ways.
What it means to everyone, it changes as well, depending on your life chapter, what city you're in.
My community at 20 is different than it was at 26. That it was at 6.
Oh, absolutely. Vicky, an absolute joy.
I want to keep talking forever.
I know. Is there anything else you want to add? I could keep going on forever.
So. I feel like I talked your ear off.
Kindred spirits, mate. It's it has been an absolute joy.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, there might be a part 2 on its way. Watch this space. But for those who are listening, where can they find you? In person, online?
In person, Endorphins runs, I think, 4 times a week in New York, maybe 5, in Brooklyn and in Manhattan. So everything's on Endorphins Running. And then for me, I'm just Vicky Conroy on everything. I think there's a dot in my TikTok name, Vicky.Conroy, but you'll find me. You'll find me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for helping me stay rooted in New York. It's a pleasure. And that's a wrap on this episode of New York Transplants. If you enjoyed this conversation, here's what you can do next. Share this episode with a friend who might need some support with their community building and transplant journey. Subscribe to New York Transplants on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube so you never miss an episode. You can also follow me on Instagram for short form content and Substack for deeper dives. And last but not least, you can leave a review to let me know what you think of this content. Until next time, stay rooted.